Captured by Women is brought to you by Yum Vita, a delicious way to grow, and Nido Fortigrow, your love, their future.
Isn't it lovely to come again your way on another Saturday like this? It's your favorite Saturday show, Captured by Women, and we are proudly sponsored by Nido, Yum Vita, and GTP. I'm not doing this alone. I'm here with the ever-gorgeous Nyo Falong. Falong, how are you?
I'm very well, Amma. How have you been?
I'm doing awesome.
It's been a busy week, hasn't it?
It has.
So much happening. There's always something new. When you walk into the newsroom in the morning,
They hit you
something
with
is
something
happening
new.
in town. But tomorrow is Sunday, and then all of us get to rest.
Yes, Sunday that we've all been waiting for. But anyway, today you've tuned into your favorite show, so let me give you a lineup of what we promised to give you. We'll start off by talking about the demonstration at Ablekuma over bad roads this week. We're finding out, are demonstrations the way to go? Is that the only language that government seems to respond to, or do we as citizens have a recourse to use better platforms to address our issues? We'll find out. We'll spin on this and give you our views. Then we'll also touch on Media General's platform that they created to talk about Ponzi schemes, a forum that brought in ace journalist Ace Ankoma. He came to talk about it, and definitely I'm sure that made news throughout the week. We also had very intelligent people come to speak about the characteristics of Ponzi schemes. So if you didn't hear that, we certainly will give you a tidbit about it so you can learn a thing or two and avoid it. Then also this week, the president inaugurated some 100,000 graduates into the NAPCO program. He said to them to make sure they build a Ghana they will be proud of. Are you proud of the Ghana you see, or what are you doing in your small space to make sure Ghana becomes a better one? And so he urged them to go out there and give off their best. We'll find out the details thereafter. Then also we'll talk about some security personnel uniforms that look like the police agencies and other security agencies that are owned by government. And we're finding out, doesn't this, confuse us as to who is who? And doesn't it also make them go into ventures where they're not supposed to be? We'll touch on these very sensitive issues and find out what the take is. We'll have very intelligent people come to speak on the matter so you can find out what the law says, what the rules are, and how we should go about it. So you can see the lineup is very interesting. Make sure you grab that cold glass of Nido, just relax and enjoy. The show we prepared for you today is Captured by Women, as always. Stay tuned. On Tuesday, 10th October, irate youth of Ablekuma Menhia hit the streets because of bad roads. They were speaking to government indirectly to make sure they fix it. Interestingly, they got a response. Falong, do you think this is the way we should be going about it? Because I have an issue with demonstrations. I think in as much as you get a response, it's not particularly the right channel to use.
It's an unfortunate situation because although as a citizen you do have a right to demonstrate, to make your frustrations heard, but we shouldn't get the impression that this is the only thing that gets government's reaction, because then we're sending the wrong message and then people will abuse that situation. Another issue I have with this is I think government needs to communicate better with the people at the community level, because you find that there's been a break in communication, especially between political actors and the people in the community. And I always believe that political actors need to manage the promises that they make to the members of their constituency, because what happens is you make them all these flamboyant promises, and when you come into office they expect immediate action. They want to see that their problems have been addressed, because this is the ticket on which you campaign to solve their problems. And then when they realize this is not happening and you probably haven't visited the community in a long time, they get angry, they react in a violent manner. But we cannot blame this on only the political actors. We also as citizens, we have a responsibility to react in a measured manner, in a mature, in an organized manner. I happened to be at the community level in Mahia or during the demonstration, and I spoke to one of their leaders. I said to him, this demonstration, did you ask permission from the police before you embarked on the demonstration? He said, oh, we did ask permission. They told us to hold on. But we have decided that this is not a demonstration, it is awareness.
Who decides that?
It is awareness creation. So they already know that they are going about it the wrong way. And I also said to them, you are inconveniencing users of the road.
Right.
You are inconveniencing your fellow community members because they are not the cause of the problem.
Exactly.
And don't forget that you are trying to get the attention of the lawmaker. But in the process, you are actually placing more inconvenience on your fellow community members, and they are having to deal with this, having their daily activities come to a halt. And you should see people jumping through the blaze just to get to the other side of the road so they can, you know, go about their daily activities. I think we could be much more organized as a people and a bit more measured in our reactions.
I agree with, you know, the measured part of it, because it's become, you know, the order of the day where everyone seems to hit the streets to demonstrate, to get response. That not being said, I think demonstrations are allowed per the law, but there's a procedure you need to follow, such as alerting the police that you want to do something like this. And so if you say it and the police, you see, because we are definitely the citizens outnumber the police agencies. So if you ask for their security protection only to demonstrate and they say hold on, it means the particular date and time you've chosen is not convenient for them, and so they'll try and come to terms with you to find out a better way of going about it. But I think also people have put in their minds that once you inform the police, they wouldn't allow you to go on it anyway, so why bother? If we want to take the law into our own hands, then let's do so now. But if you do that, then you also open yourself out for any security breach. Imagine whilst we're doing this, if the people who were prevented from using the roads also got upset and decided there was a clash, who would you then call to come and protect who? Because you are erring, you understand. But if the police doesn't come, and when our issue happened, the police wasn't there. And so I think as citizens, we also owe our responsibility to the nation, irrespective of what the politician has said. And oftentimes we know politicians come and give us all the flamboyant things, which really, when they get into government and realize what is on the ground, they can't, you know, satisfy us. So as much as possible, I think it all boils down to communication.
Yes.
If you have an issue, you have an MP, you have DC, I mean, there's so many chains before it even hits the top. Why don't we use those channels to make sure our issues are addressed? Because usually when we do these demonstrations, people react in a reactionary manner, only to satisfy you and calm you for a bit, but it doesn't solve the root cause of the problem. Because I hear in Menia there was some asphalting, there was some construction work that started, but trust me, we all know it's only to calm them down. When they leave this, do you think you would have that impetus again to go back to them? It's like you made a mistake to get us to come here anyway, so we're only giving you something. And that's not the way.
And the people did know that government will respond. And this was, they knew they were going to get a response, and they have been demonstrating for years about the state of that road. Now, when government also moves to respond to them, it is confirmation, you know, of their belief that this is the only way we can get the state's attention. And when you do that, you create a culture that is unhealthy and cannot be sustained. I think the district assemblies also have a role to play here. You need to be in touch with the communities. You have to understand their problems and the most pressing ones, and make sure that you push these problems forward in a way that government can solve them before they escalate.
Exactly. I agree. I certainly agree with you. But anyway, guys, that's what we think about this issue of demonstrations. We're saying they're loud. Let's just make sure we're taking the right channels. And of course, demonstrations may not be the only way out to get our problems solved. Let's use the communication channels to make sure our issues are dealt with at the very grassroots. But we'll take a break. We'll be back with more. We are proudly sponsored by Nido, Yamvita, and GTP. Stay with us.
We have had DKM, God is Love, Savannah Brokerage, and several investments frauds in Ghana's short investment history. But do you know how to protect your hard-earned funds from investment fraud? Today, I'm going to be speaking to the COO of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, and he's going to talk to us about investment in the face of Ponzi schemes and how to clean the mess. This also happened to be the theme for Media General's Maiden Economic Forum. We'll be right back. We have in the studio the COO of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, and he's going to be answering the main question, investment in the face of Ponzi schemes, how to clean the mess. Mr. Joe Jackson, the big question is investment fraud and investment in these times where we have so many investment schemes that are trying to dupe people. How do you think we can clean up the mess?
You know, the first question is, what's a Ponzi scheme? Right? And the Ponzi scheme is simply a scheme where you are promised a very high return and they just rob Peter to pay Paul. They take your money, right? They don't even do any work with your money. They don't even invest your money properly to get a return, which they, in theory, they should be working with your money, getting a return, and sharing that return with you. Now, a Ponzi scheme is where they are not doing anything with the money. They are just consuming the money and giving you just the little the return they have promised you, whereas by just bringing more and more people into the scheme. So if you gave me 100 cedis today and I promise you 10% per month, I actually would give you the first 10%, but before and then start chopping your money. Before the time ends, somebody will bring his money. Then I'll give you the next 10 cedis, and on and on and on and on. So one key thing about a Ponzi scheme is that it needs constant injection of new members, because if the members stop coming,
the money runs out.
The money runs out. But what's the key here? The key here is that if I promise you a return, which sounds fantastic, then you should be suspicious. Because think about it. If I promise you 10% per month, then it means I should be earning something like 25% per month, so that when I take my business costs, take the profit and share with you,
you still make a profit, or at
you
least
can make a profit. So the question is this: how many businesses do you know who can make the fantastic return that this company is promising you
in a short time?
In a short time. So that if the first rule is this: if that return, if the interest it is promising you is too big, or doesn't make sense, or sounds like they are doing some magic, please run.
But you know, I want to ask that question because most people make it sound like it's easy to identify a Ponzi scheme. But you coming from that investment perspective, is it that easy? Because apart from being promised the interest rates, high interest rates at that, maybe the person starts for a whole year, they're getting their returns often. They also see some documents, the fact that these people have been licensed or are in the good books of some regulator, and so continue.
Remember, I didn't talk about, I just say, listen, the first rule is ask yourself, what are they doing with my money so that they can give me this amount of money, this amount of return? Listen, it's very simple. If they're doing something legal, first of all, they should be able to tell you. If they tell you and that doesn't sound realistic, there's something wrong. And the only reason why some people will tell you that, oh, me, I've gone for my money 3 times.
Yes.
They are relying on word of mouth, on the the constant infusion of new members, so that those who start early may actually profit because there are constantly new members coming in. It is when it gets too big or something happens to say you have to stop, then you run into a problem. But I assure you that, listen, there's only one rule: don't be greedy. But if somebody comes to you, see, it's one of two things. Either they're doing something very illegal, right? So they can, it's only drugs, illegal things, smuggling, not paying tax, under invoicing,
money laundering,
fake money. Those are the things that bring that kind of fantastic return. So if I come to you today and I say, hello, I'll give you 10% per month, your mind should go, hey, if you can give me 10, then you must be getting 25. If you're getting 25, what are you doing? You know, I read in the newspaper, not in the newspaper, I read online that one of the churches had its funds with one of the schemes you suspect is Ponzi, and was suing this institution. And I had a question to ask, that how can you put money without asking how the money was generated?
Correct.
And that's the question you should ask. Because truly, maybe you're putting money in an illegal scheme. Maybe you're putting money in a fraudulent scheme. Maybe you're putting money in something that is actually harmful.
Right.
So it's not about how long somebody has been getting his return. It is not about whether I put money and I got my return. It is about you asking yourself, hey, how are they able to give this kind of money? And how much money are they earning so that they can give me this kind of... They are not Father Christmas. It is not, you know. Right. So at the bottom of this whole thing is ask questions. And ask questions, and they are not unrealistic questions. So you are a market woman. You do business. You know, you go and sit in the shop the whole day. At the end of the month, do you earn 20% on your capital? If you earn 20% of your capital, we know what you are doing. You sell wache, even food that is supposed to be very lucrative. Can I send food and make this kind of return? I don't have my phone. So the question is simply this. Ask questions. How are they making this money to give me? And don't allow yourself to let them tell you something. Oh, we are trading something that is a secret. That and listen, nobody who runs an investment scheme is a Father Christmas, or as has been said before, nobody is the Pope. Yes.
Now, Mr. Joe Jackson, before we go on, the Economic Forum, Media General organized as a maiden Economic Forum of Media General, was very heavy on the topic of investment in the face of Ponzi schemes. We're going to take a quick listen to some of the things that were said, and when we come back, we'll continue with this discussion.
Under Section 219, the Registrar General, when he or she determines that the business of the company is being organized for an otherwise fraudulent or unlawful purpose, can commence investigations. So basically, the Registrar General has the power when you are using the company for an unlawful purpose, such as using it to raise deposits when you are not licensed to raise deposits. The Registrar General can stop the business and work with the Attorney General to send you to jail.
People know they don't like what their knowledge will tell them, so they switch off their brain. And Ponzi fits in that scheme. Greed is one thing. I can excuse you a bit for ignorance. You didn't know. You should know. Because you can read. Because if you start thinking hard enough, you will not do it. Now that I can't excuse you from. We do have the laws.
We're engaging more with the public. We have done such educational drives in the past, so this is not a new phenomenon, but I think the point that's been made is the mode. For instance, the kind of collateral we'll be creating, we'll be looking at that. We can't stop you from making certain decisions. We are a free economy. We actually allow for businesses to operate. So it's important to be conscious of the risks you're taking, to request for information to guide your decision.
So according to Paul Ababu, he thinks the Ghanaian investor does not have enough information to be able to make the right decisions in the investment market. There was also another professor who spoke earlier this week saying that there's not enough investment literacy in Ghana. Do you think this could be the case?
My answer will be yes, both yes and no. I'll explain why. There is really not enough information, and all of us could do with enough information. But some of the schemes that have gone wrong, you cannot attribute it to lack of information, because you see, I've interviewed people who have been in a scheme that's gone wrong, and we've spoken about it before, and they said, "Oh, just wait, I know it will go bad, but I've got only 3 months to make my money back, and if I can last for another 3 months." At that point, I'm saying that this is pure greed, because you don't care whose money is coming to pay you. You don't care. You know that this is wrong, and yet you believe that if it can survive for another 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I will get what I want and I can walk. That can't be right. That can't be right. And as much as I actually feel that there are some people who are pure victims. They did not understand and did not know. I think that the majority of the people who are victims are guilty of a bit too much greed.
Right.
That a lot of them have been warned that this is not right and this could go wrong. He said, and the usual response is, oh, me, I got in early. If I get in early, I will get my money. Those who are coming after me, let them to each his own. That is the problem. Then what happens is that it's never that simple.
Right. Mr. Jackson, rightly in the Media General platform, we, offered people to come and understand what a Ponzi scheme looks like. We hear Ace Ankoma and Kofi Bento both talking about some very critical aspects of it. We talk about the law and the fact that no one has been punished for any Ponzi scheme. Isn't that one of the reasons why they continue to exist?
I happen to agree with that 100%. You see, no, up till now, I don't know anybody who's been even fined for running a scheme that was that fraudulent. There's always a loophole. And you know the best part of these schemes, sometimes even the very victims are defending those who are defrauding them.
Yes.
And sometimes it beats my imagination. How can you be defending the one who is taking you down where there's no regulator, where it is a pure out and out Ponzi scheme?
You have no help.
No help.
So moving away from investment in the face of Ponzi schemes, it is pretty clear that as an investor, you need a lot more information before you become a player on the investment market, just so you can invest to your own advantage. Now let's talk about the Nation Builders Corps, NABCO. 100,000 recruits, 700 Ghana cedis monthly stipend, and 3 billion seed money, 7 modules. What is it going to add to economic growth and development? When we come back, we'll be answering that question.
The 100,000 NABCO trainees will be deployed in 7 critical aspects of our economy. They are going to assist in the realization of government's vision of an educated population, an industrialized, robust, and well-managed economy.
Welcome back. You're still watching Captured by Women. We're talking about the Nation Builders Corps and what it adds to economic growth and development. We still have in the studio Mr. Joe Jackson, who's the COO of Dalex Finance, and he's going to be speaking to this question. Mr. Joe Jackson, 3 billion Ghana cedis being injected into the Nation Builders Corps. We've had a lot of people raise the argument that this money could be injected into another sector of the economy. For example, like the One District, One Factory. So eventually we create sustainable employment. Do you agree with this?
I have to agree. And I have challenges with the Nation Builders Corps. See, we've diagnosed the problem. And the problem is that there's no employment. That nobody's disputing that. But is it the right way for the government to create employment? Especially when we have a history of all these schemes and these modules and these cohorts and different names that we've called them, and these days we've gotten very creative with them, with the names. Is it the right way for the government to just create another scheme, another bureaucracy, people to employ? Or could this money be used in innovative ways that will create private sector employment, because the private sector is struggling? I'll give you an example. What if this money was given out as vouchers, and it says that if you as a private sector person employ any graduate in the rural area, the government will pay half the salary and give you back half. So long as you pay 700 cedis or more and you employ somebody in the rural area to do some productive work, then all of a sudden I will give you, say, 350 cedis and you pay the 350 cedis. First of all, the money will go much further and it will encourage people to employ and do things in the rural area. if it is hard to look at somebody who is not employed and say to him that you shouldn't be getting the 700 cedis that you're getting. That sounds very callous. But we should ask ourselves, how sustainable is this?
Right.
And is this actually creating, let me tell you what, it just even distorts the job market. Because what happens is that the people in the rural areas who don't even earn 700 cedis doing work that they should be doing, right? The work that they can get. Once you start paying that amount of money, then everybody should stop what they are doing and come and do NAPCO work, because NAPCO work pays a bit more.
But there's a qualification.
There's a qualification, but listen, I happen to employ a lot of people in the rural areas, and I tell you, the amount of unemployment there is incredible.
But Mr. Joe Jackson, I hear you loud and clear, and I think people side with you when you talk about if government pumped the money into the private sector, what it could have been. But as it stands now, government also probably has looked at it, hopefully, and they think this is the better way out. Because equally, you could have them pumping money into the private sector, and the private agencies wouldn't do what their mandate is to do. And so how really, now that they've set the ball rolling, do you think that there are other things government can add to this to make it sustainable and to go a long way to make all of us benefit?
Well, at this moment, well, it's a fait accompli. It's been done. The program is going to go ahead. What we ask is, make sure, please, and let it be transparent. Transparent. Tell us how much money is being paid for the scheme and how much money is going into benefit the
Directly
people.
to the
Yes,
recruits.
because our challenge always is this: should we be spending money on consumption, or we should be spending money that goes to boost production?
Right.
And that is a debate we could have almost forever. If the government says that this is the best way, we will agree to disagree. But we will now say, if this is what you're going to do, please make sure that there is not some bureaucrat somewhere, some corrupt person somewhere who is taking out more money than is going to the poor, unemployed graduates.
Right.
Well, there you have it on NAPCO. Mr. Joe Jackson has raised an important question of sustainability. He's also raised a question of transparency. Moving forward, how do we ensure that we have the right figures and the right information that shows us that the money being paid is going to the right person and is going to the recruit to better the life of the recruit and also to enhance productivity?
Exactly a year ago, the Inspector General of Police issued that the private security organizations had uniforms too similar to the security agencies of the state, and he cautioned that they should change these uniforms so that there is no confusion as to who they are. Some of them are complying, but others seemingly are not. And an issuance has come that November 1st, there will be a crackdown on private security organizations that do not comply with this directive. We're going to be speaking to DSP Kweku Dompre. He is a Staff Officer, Private Security Operations Directorate of the Ghana Police Service. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam.
DSP, so let's start off with it because the private security organization has many other issues in addition to the uniforms. So we'll touch on the uniforms and then generalize the conversation. But starting off with that directive, why is it an issue for some of them to comply with the fact that you don't want to be wearing a uniform similar to the police or any other state security agency for that matter?
It's a meeting as a result of meetings that came up between the Ministry of Interior, the operators of these organizations, and the police service. It stems from the fact that over the years, the regulation, the law, permits only the Inspector General of Police to approve uniform for any private security person. So over the years, the regime was that if you want to organize, if you want to operate, you send a sample of such uniform to the Inspector General of Police. And after examining, if he sees that there's nothing wrong with it, in fact, the law says that it must not bear resemblance to any of the uniforms being used by state securities. So looking at, if he goes through and sees that, okay, this is okay, he approves. But over the years, that there were so much abuses where particular uniform is approved, but on the ground it's a different thing.
Right.
And the abuses always comes with those they want to appear as police, as soldiers.
Okay.
So you see a private security guard outside. In fact, you can only take it the name, which is not but it's a policeman like,
Right.
or a soldier like. And so this became a problem for operators themselves.
Okay.
And it was raised at several meetings. So last year, when the Inspector General of Police took office, decided that no, there should be a creation of this directorate to take care of private security. From the fact that they complement our efforts.
Right.
You can imagine police numbers in this country,
Right.
and without the private security guys,
You'll be overwhelmed.
we'll be overwhelmed.
Right.
DSP, now, what is the penalty if a private security firm fails to comply? Because if the state is not really enforcing the penalties, then there will be security agencies that will continue to flaunt this.
No, there is going to be an enforcement. That, just as you have said in your intro, 1st of November is street enforcement, because this is an issue that we have both, the tripartite committee, kind of, the ministry, the police, and the operators have all agreed on that. This is what, in fact, several meetings went on before we came.
Yeah, so what happens? Do you close them down? What happens to the people who have not complied?
The law says that if you violate any provision in this regulation, the law, you will be taken to court, arrested and sent to court. The court will either find you or send you to jail, or both.
Okay.
The minister who gave you the license to operate has the power to revoke that license, take it away from you, because he has given the license to do 1, 2, 3, 4 within specific laws. And if he finds that you are not operating within that regime, within that confines of the law, he has every power to take it away from you.
Very well. But in this provision, you only made room for about 3 uniforms in which they can choose out of these to, for their organizations. But also there's that thing of branding and competition. If we have over 200 private security organizations, if I'm right, and if 50 of them decide to go for one particular uniform, from the back or near close, it pretty much is the same. And to us, it may also confuse tagging one person against another. Maybe for the organization this is an issue. Why won't you broaden it? Just like you said, just make sure it's nothing close to that of any state security agency and allow them to choose their own. Well,
we have gone beyond this discussion and have come to this conclusion. Seriously, it is not our police service handing down these uniforms to anybody. It was born out of deliberations, several deliberations between, like I said, the operators, the service, and the ministry to come out with this
so the 3 were chosen under mutual consent. Right.
So it is not a question of anybody
pushing it down.
No. In any case, coming to it, you see several policemen line up here. We are in the same uniform, but you can identify.
No, but we certainly know you are all from the police agency.
No, it's
so
the same.
No
it's the same way you're going to know that they are all from private security operations.
Right.
They are the operators in this country.
Now maybe one security agency does better than another.
Obviously, in this country, there's competition everywhere.
Exactly.
So it depends on how you brand yourself. So this is the top.
Okay.
It could be long or short sleeve.
Right.
Okay.
And this is the down.
Okay.
But the down must be long.
This is trousers. Obviously, trousers.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Okay.
Then the next one is this white top. As I said, long or short.
And
it's
I
okay.
presume this will
and
be
this for it.
So
So you see that whatever the down is, the top, the down white stripe here is the top.
Will correspond.
So there is that correspondence there. It's the same way here. This one.
I like the purple.
This one is also here
And
together goes with this. So you see that the top is the stripe here, and the stars are also the same. However, the distinction is going to be that if you look at this, look at me, I have police crest here, telling me that I am not a fire service crest, I'm not a soldier, I'm a policeman. It's going to put the same thing here. For instance, your company, Nyambechre Security, is here.
Okay.
You put it here, your logo is here. Your logo that is registered, you put it here. Now, if Kojo Bensa is your guard on duty at TV3 gate, who is working there, his name tag is here.
Okay.
Just as I have mine here.
So the logo and the name tag
is there. So that anybody who appears there do that, Nyambechre Security and Kojo Bensa is there on duty.
But let's move away from the uniforms alone. Who regulates the private security organizations?
Okay. The regulation comes from the Ministry of Interior, who gives the license. So once he gives you the license, he has the power to regulate your activities. However, the police has come on board with the establishment of this of the Private Security Operations Directorate, where we take over, or not is it take over, or we do the monitoring and compliance. Once there is a regulation, there is a law, the law enforcement agency, which is the police, go to do the enforcement. That is why we are saying that after all said and done, after all the discussion that we have done, after all the agreements we have gone into, deciding on the way forward, when these uniforms were launched by the Inspector General of Police, there was this 1 year period, knowing very well that companies are already in business, changing over all of a sudden will create some bit of problems. So the agreement was that let's give ourselves 1 year, and then we can all roll over. We are in the 1 year this October,
now
so it's time to change over to what we have all agreed on. You know, so it's not a question of forcing anybody, but it's something that we have all agreed on. So we are saying that we are reminding ourselves that it's time to change. It's time to go on what we have all agreed on. So that at the end of the day, if you still go to violate it, then it means that there's something wrong somewhere.
DSP, let's still stay on monitoring and compliance. We often have some reports of private security personnel using firearms on duty. Is this something that is allowed? Is it illegal for private personnel to do this?
So this is a very good question. It has been asked in several fora. The law clearly frowns on that. The law prohibits any private security operator, guard, or whatsoever to carry weapon whilst performing his duty. There has been some issues where, you know, in this country you can acquire a licensed weapon and for your protection. You understand? Fine. If, for instance, you do that and you are given a license to wield that weapon, and you are a private security guard, so you are sent on duty to man guard TV3 gate, and you carry that weapon from your house to that place, are you it's not for personal. Great. If I answer the question for me. So the law does not allow that for anybody to use weapon whilst on duty. What the law allows for now is that long stick that we carry. You understand? There are several techniques in using that long stick to mobilize you, to make sure that the person overcomes you. That is why the system we operate now is that whilst you keep that small area, the police takes care of the larger community. So as soon as there is any distress, you give us the call and we are there.
Coming to that, the communication or the link between the police and the private security organizations, how is the flow like? Because I see it as a business venture on one hand, and on another hand being the security provision. And so how easy are they able to reach you, or how willingly do they communicate with you to, you know, send for backup or help when they have these situations?
Great. This is great. We underscore the fact that this group is complementing our effort. So everything that we also have to do to make sure that they operate their business and also help us to maintain internal security, we do it. As we speak, there is a base station. When I say a base station, what we call hello, this what we call, yes, what we do. There's a base station in our information room for them. So if you say that our main base station is congested with traffic, yours is there. So they quickly hook onto theirs, tell us whatever they have, and quickly we move on.
And are these private security agencies connected with you through this base?
Oh yes, that is why we have the base station there.
Okay.
So they are hooked onto this machine.
Okay.
So at any point in time, just
Make
dial
a call.
it, make a call to
And
to
has
us.
the response or the communication between you
and
been
communication over there is 24/7.
Okay.
So there's nothing like they have gone to sleep. No. Every time you call, somebody is there to pick up and respond to you, take your directive. You can find out the level of response, and from the bit of what we have done is very good.
Very well. Yeah. But also, you know, when it comes to recruitment of personnel for the private security organizations as against state security agency, which is pretty public, these ones, are there any background checks that are done to make sure that they fit the requirements necessary for these jobs? Because most often, I stand to be corrected, but I see some people, old people, who seemingly don't look like them the capacity to provide any security, but you find them at post with the private security agency.
Thank you for this. Yes, there is a background check.
Okay.
But as to the age limit you're talking about, I think you're referring to an old person, talking about age limit.
Yes.
Yes. The employer determines at age 60, you have to go on retirement.
Right.
So if the person is not at age 60, he is still employable. Even after age 60, people are still employable. Okay, but it depends on the kind of business you want to do with the person. So there is a complete background check on both the operator and the guards. For you to set up a private security company, it's not a matter of just standing up, go and sew uniform for some guards, and sit down somewhere. No, if you have been convicted before, whether in Ghana or outside, if you have served a prison sentence before, if you know it's there.
There's a criteria.
So the criteria is there for you to go through. Thorough background checks are done on all the directors to clear you of any crime or whatever. If you are cleared, at the end of the day, the minister issues you with the license. So also with the guards, there's a complete background checks on all of them to ensure that no, if you have done anything wrong before, you cannot. This is not a place for you.
Very well. We thank you so much, DSP Kweku Dompre. He is the Staff Officer, Private Security Operations Directorate of the Ghana Police Service, and he has been teaching us about the uniforms. And it wasn't a directive. He makes us understand that this was a consensus they all came to agree that the uniforms of private security organizations should not be the same as the state security organizations, so that there's no confusion of who is who. And he certainly has given them options. They all came together to agree on these 3 nice options, and by November 1st they will crack down on anyone who doesn't comply with these things. But anyway, guys, I hope you understood what they mean, and certainly we'll see some improvements in our security agency. On that note, we'd like to say thank you to you again. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women.
And that's how we end Captured by Women today. In the detail, we have been looking at demonstrations in Able Kumamenia about the condition of the roads and how government can best respond to these situations before they escalate. We also touched on Ponzi schemes and investment in the face of Ponzi schemes and how we can clean the mess. We looked at the Nation Builders Corps, which is Ghana's flagship employment program to target unemployment among graduates. My name is Nwong Falong. A big thank you to our sponsors Yamvita, Nido and GTP. I have not been doing this alone today. I have been with
Nana Machiman.
Thank you for staying with us. Good afternoon.
Captured by Women is brought to you by Yumvita, a delicious way to grow, and Nido 40 Grow, your love, their future.